I cover multiple things, but
Mm,
just in small amounts. Like I don't do one specific thing all the
right.
time. It
Yeah. Well, it's great. I mean, I was writing loads of content and planning to launch a course, which one of the chapters in the course is to do with pre-production. So I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I'm interested to see what you've been doing with your helping people with that and coaching people with it. And I thought, great idea for a pod.
Yay!
Because yeah, exactly. I'd like to help artists and songwriters and people who are doing it in the real world, and then good
And that's
opportunity.
basically my MO. That's what we do, is like trying to help people get up that first rung of the ladder, really.
Yeah.
That's what we consider our role to be. We're gonna be looking for trying to get charitable status
Oh,
somewhere down
brilliant.
the line because we have become our own charity.
I've put here a bit about Beth, what she does, and the blue sky thing. So, should we start there?
Yeah.
I mean, we met like years ago, didn't we, back in Worthing? And that was when you were writing and playing original songs. And is that you're very much doing that these days as well, aren't you? Kind of doing your own thing.
I
And
am, yeah. I mean, that's probably my main thing that I have that I've been doing for years and years. It's
mm,
like, my most confident thing is songwriting. And I've had to build up my own production skills
mm,
because I've been writing for such a long time that, I've gone from recording my songs onto a cassette to putting them on computer, putting them on
yeah.
CDs, things like that. So my production skills have increased over time. My most recent album that's not actually out yet is probably my best work so
Right.
far, but then it would always be, wouldn't it? Your most recent work is always going to be your best work, right?
Yeah, I find it curious that people say like that in the tech world. This is our fastest phone yet. Of course it is. You're not going to
Yeah,
release one
well,
that's
that's
slower, are
exactly
you?
it.
But yeah, no, it's a good point. You should see a progression. But yeah, I'm glad that's been the case.
Yeah. So I suppose everything that I do is based around the fact that I'm a singer-songwriter. I wanted it to be my main thing in my life. I didn't want to be like working a day job anymore. So now it is my day job, but it's not just writing. You can't just be a singer-songwriter. That
Yeah.
can't be your, bread and butter. So then it's like, okay, well, what else can I do that involves music?
Mm.
And how can I take what I've learned over the last for 20 odd years? I'm not going to go into how many
Yeah, it's
exactly.
fun, isn't it? When you think about how long you've
And
been doing music, like 20 years, it just sounds
yeah,
like forever. I
it's
started my first band when I was 14, and I'm 44 now.
yeah. Well, I was 14 when I wrote my first song, and I'm 41. So yeah, it's been
God.
about 27 years I've been doing music. But basically, I've learned so much over the years of like things that I've had to do as a singer-songwriter.
Yeah,
And then I don't know, I've always been brought up to be somebody who passes knowledge on. So that's just
right.
what I do now. Like I share what I know and I help
Yeah.
people who are, further back in their journey than I am to try and get ahead, really.
Brilliant.
So
Very admirable. And that was what led to, I'm assuming, what led to having Blue Sky Music.
yeah, well, Blue Sky Music wasn't really me to start with.
Oh, right.
So my partner, everybody calls him Beanie. Um, so I joined forces with Beanie, basically. I was working a full-time job before in childcare. I got to the point where I was physically unable to do it anymore. So I was like, do you know what? Now is
Mm.
a good time to focus on more on the music. So I
Yeah,
left
yeah.
my day job. We've been running the open mics together. We focused on running open mics to start with,
Mm.
and then it's just growing as we get more involved with venues, with artists. So now we've got venues asking us for bands. We've got these email lists. We send out gigs and get people booked for gigs. With the open mics, we've had lots of young people requesting open mics, but because they're in pubs, they can't come in if they're under 18.
Yeah.
So we had a very specific young people's open mic in
Hmm.
September. We're going to have another one in December. It was very popular September. What we
Yeah.
did as part of that one was offer a pre-production session
Hmm.
at the studio here, my studio that I built for myself, but it's like a teaching session for the young
Nice.
people to learn what it's like to go to a studio, how to prepare yourself effectively, things like that. So it's just a 1 hour, and they could get to record a song to a backing track and take it away with them,
Oh,
so
brilliant.
it was a free,
Oh yeah,
free
yeah, yeah.
offer for all
But
the young people that can get something.
yeah, I love that. I love that. I mean, to be
Yeah.
fair, it probably seems like it's a quite far away thing for someone who's new. Like the whole idea of going to a studio, you're kind of probably breaking down the perceptions of it and making it seem more real.
Yeah, well, it's making it so that they realize it's accessible.
Mm.
And I'm kind of like, I would really love if singer-songwriters felt able to record their own demos.
Yeah, yeah. God,
Like,
I'm so passionate about that myself. It's like,
and it
yeah,
would be so much easier
yeah.
for, I think, for production, if
Mm.
you're doing full production, to have a demo that you can listen to properly, to be
Yeah,
able to prepare yourself as a producer for what
yeah.
you're
I mean, I
doing.
really encourage that. I've had a few projects where that's been the case, and they've been the most smooth projects. Yeah, that's why I'm getting really into writing content and helping people think more about that. I don't try and be too technical. I try and be more
Yeah,
like approaches and mindset stuff, and having, obviously there's technical stuff you need to know, but the way when you're making your own demo, it's freedom, it's experimentation, it's fun, and
yeah,
you're going to
yeah,
end up discovering stuff and going down your own little paths and stuff. So,
yeah.
but yeah, maybe there's a bit of a barrier to that in terms of people thinking they have to know everything, or
Yeah, that's the
mm,
main thing that I find. I'm like, actually, do you know what? You don't have to be scared of the technology. It's really not
yeah,
that difficult to just all you need is an audio interface and a microphone. And that's
yeah,
it. And
yeah,
you
yeah,
could start from there. You can download a free digital audio workstation like Cakewalk or Studio One Prime or something like that.
yeah.
And you can just learn how to navigate it. If you can press record and you've got the right inputs,
Yeah,
then
exactly. I think
that's it.
I've
That's all
found
it
people
takes.
have a sense that they don't, that's not what they do. They're like, I'm a songwriter, I'm not a producer, I'm not an engineer, so they don't do it. But it's actually like, no, these are just tools. It's like a sketch pad, isn't
Yeah,
it? So, and there's not pressure on trying to make this thing that you're making into a perfect finished recording. It's just, you're just capturing something,
yeah, exactly,
and
exactly.
um, and it's funny because I'm doing what I do as a producer. I find that I'm helping people with pre-production without, it just happens as part of the conversation, and a lot of them are sometimes,
Yeah,
not a lot of them, but I've had artists who have been like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting this. They thought it's all going to start on the day they come to the studio, and we're going to hit record, and it's just going to happen." It's like, no, there's quite a lot that happens before that, and lots of
yeah.
preparation, and lots of different types of preparation you can do. Have you been covering stuff to do with songwriting in your sessions? Like, what have you been focusing on
Um,
in your
so
sessions?
so it depends on who's come into the studio really. So
Yeah.
I've had people who've got like a completely finished song.
Hmm.
So, they come in to record a demo because they haven't got recording facilities at home. So I'll record the demo with them, but while I'm doing it, I'll explain what I'm doing so that they can learn that they can actually do it themselves.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
they've gone off and recorded their own demos after that, which is brilliant. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And then there's others who come in with like a part song, and then
Hmm.
we'll sit and we'll cover songwriting because we'll try and finish the song and we'll
Yeah.
talk about arrangement.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
do like to talk with people about arrangement
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I think a lot of singer-songwriters have like they'll write a song on the guitar and it will just be the same vibe
Mhm.
all the way through the whole song. And it's like, okay, we need a little bit of dynamic
Yeah.
variation. So let's talk about the arrangement. And then they're like, what's arrangement? I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's a massive,
No.
massive thing. Yeah, it's a
It
word
really
that.
is. It makes a difference between
Mm,
like a song that can just be, I don't know. So I think some songs can just get a bit dull if they don't have variation in them. They
yeah,
need to have something that just sort of brings it up every now and then.
yeah. To be
Um,
fair, like what you're talking about and the arrangement stuff that I talk about is like I feel like it needs to be a separate thing. Like you could almost say, well, I'm going to be a specialist in arrangement, because it's more than just adding an extra chord here and there or whatever. It's like you can get really, there's people
well,
like
yeah,
Quincy
totally.
Jones who are like famous for being arrangers, who made some of the most amazing. He was only a bit of a songwriter, but in terms of his skill, it was like no, his skill was taking a song and then making it the best version of,
Yeah,
arrangement is a massive part of that. The earlier, if you're thinking about that when you're starting out, that's going to set you ahead of lots of other people who are just sort of, like I say, not really thinking about it and thinking maybe it's enough of a song without that focus. But
yeah,
it's a learning curve, I guess, with anything, isn't there? And you're helping
well,
to.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
like that. Yeah, I love that. It's one of my main things I love doing is like, okay, you've got this, like, and if I've been given permission to help with the arrangement and it's part of what we're working on, It's my favorite part, really.
Yeah, do you know what? That's exactly it. Like, if people have got exact idea of what they want and they record it and they're done and that's it, then I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm like, would you like me to do something else with it?
Yeah.
Because that's my favorite part. Once it's all recorded, creating the arrangement and like adding extra variation, extra instrumentation on top, like, you know, just even like a subtle bit of strings or a little extra bit of melodic piano line or something, you know, just something to add to the arrangement. And then it just makes, I don't know, just to make a track pop, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Not pop
that
music,
is,
but pop as in make it pap.
yes.
Make it slap, which is another one of my favorite words. Well, that slaps. How's your band going? You've got a live band, haven't you?
I have got a band. So we worked really hard in the lead up to the album coming out back in February, and we were in the rehearsal studio like every week for months.
Nice.
We recorded the album in a live context, so we were all in the same room,
Brave.
played it. I overdubbed the vocals afterwards because I actually had a cold when I
Ah,
recorded it.
like
So my voice wasn't
terrible
on point.
timing.
So, and then we got all of the raw stems and
Hmm.
I brought them home and I mixed.
Great.
And I sent 3 of the tracks, the 3 tracks that were the singles, went to a professional mixing engineer in London who I
Nice.
chose because of his mixing on a guy called Cy Connolly, who's like one of my favorite. You know, when you just hear something and you're like, I
Yeah.
love the mixing and the production on this.
Yeah, well,
And I was
that's
like,
in fact maybe a lot of people don't have that ear. They don't understand why they like it, but you're able to kind of identify that it was the mix and the production
yeah,
that
absolutely.
you
So I was
liked
like,
about it.
right, okay. So I asked Cy, I was like, who did your mixes? And he's like, I always do all of my recording with Adrian Hall. So I'm like, okay, right, that's who I'm
Nice.
using. So I used
Perfect.
him for my 3 singles, and then I used those as reference points for mixing the rest of the album. So I
Hmm.
tried to match up the sounds of the instruments with how he'd made them sound in those 3 tracks.
How'd that go?
Um,
Was that all
I
right?
think I got as close as I could with the knowledge that I have. I
That's
learned lots.
essentially what I'm doing every day when I'm working. I'm like, okay, how are Radiohead
Um,
doing it? How is
yeah, this is it. Like
listening to
using other
Beyonce going, how can I get mine to sound like that?
Yeah, and if you hear something you really like, just matching the sounds can just like completely revolutionize the mix, can't it?
Yeah, well,
So
no, I was going to say like that whole thing about reference tracks that you've sort of feared into, which is a brilliant subject. So you've got a couple of you've already known as an artist that's music mixes you like, so you're able to. This comes from years of listening to music, right? So I've been thinking about this myself lately, like teaching people and helping people to learn how to listen critically and figure out what it is, because the step one to really becoming someone who can self-produce and be a producer is to know what the vision is and how you're hearing it and what you're hearing. And
absolutely,
reference tracks are like such a people. I've had people say, "Oh, I don't want to copy it. I don't want to steal the ideas." It's like, no, you're not stealing anything. It's basically it's showing the scale, the kind of overall tone and aesthetic of something that you want to aim for. But during that process, during your production process, you're going to end up somewhere completely different. But it's nice to have these references, and and actually
absolutely.
consciously selecting songs that share like a sonic, like harmonic or like lyrical characteristics that you've got with your music. You're going to get so much
Mm,
clarity. And a producer like me, it's gold for me to hear that, because it's like, okay, we're not going to try and copy that, but now I know. And also drilling down like what it is about the songs and the tracks that you actually are referencing. So
yeah,
in your case, you're talking about you like the mix and the instrumentation of what was that guy's name?
Cy Connolly.
Guy Connolly. So you were like, right, I'm going to match that. In some cases, it's just like I like the kick drum sound, or I like the vocal reverb they're using, or something. But it all really massively helps someone like me to go, okay, brilliant. So yeah, I've given that as one of the things I want to try and help focus on as an area of pre-production, is reference tracks, and actually making notes on what elements of the reference tracks that they're interested in and they really like, and then also what they don't like about certain songs, and then drill that down and then bring that to the studio as a bit of a reference to say, oh, by the way, let's listen to these 5 or 6 songs, and over the course of those 5, 6 songs, I'm going to build a really strong picture of where not to go and where to go. So yeah, anyway,
Yeah,
I love that.
that's
Loved it.
also really helpful, I think, for artists who can't explain their genre.
Yeah. Yeah.
if you're kind of going, right, what genre are we recording in today? You know, if they don't know that, then reference tracks are a really helpful thing to be able to
Yeah,
go,
exactly. I often learn so many new artists from this process as well. So yeah, sorry, we're talking about your band. So you've got an album in the can, ready to go.
In May, I did an album writing challenge,
Oh yeah.
which was set by Lights and Lines label in Brighton.
Okay.
And
Lights and lines.
the challenge was to write and record an album in the month of May. So I had May available and I was like, right, I'm going to do this. The winner of the challenge would have their album released by the label.
Got you.
So I won the challenge.
Amazing. Amazing. Well done.
So I
Congratulations.
got myself a little record deal with Lights and Lines. The challenge will be to make live arrangements of the album because there's stuff on there that then you can't really. I mean, you could do live, but you'd need like 10 keyboards. So
Yeah, that's fun though. That's fun to rearrange them and
it's
get
a new
inside
band.
the. Yeah, this is our keyboard playing section.
Yeah.
Or, you know, one
So,
person with like loads of arms.
I think they will just be different arrangements.
Then that's totally
Um,
fine, isn't it? That's part of the fun
yeah. Oh,
of music.
absolutely.
So.
And then there's another album there, you know.
Yeah, and you can also like tease people at the gigs and say, oh, by the way, you know, this is the live incarnation of these songs, but the album has got all this extra stuff on it, so buy it.
Yeah, exactly. If you like synth.
Yes. I really love
Myself,
synths.
as part of the challenge, I set my own challenges, and that was to learn more about production, to be more experimental with the sounds that I was using, to not be scared of synths. And it's actually come out quite well, I think. The lyrical content of it is all like about challenges in relationships and things. So it's like, you know, breakups and foiled
You're going for
friendships.
this. You're going for the TV sync thing, aren't you? But relatable content, different genres. You could have a TV show with every song as your album. That'll be like
that
the
wasn't
goal.
originally the plan, but because my first album was like my heart, that was like, you know, the songs that really mean a lot to me. Whereas this album is like I've written it with something in mind.
Yeah, in a
So
month.
it's more my head than my heart.
Yeah.
So I don't want people like listening to it and asking me questions about my relationship and stuff, you know, because that's not what it's about.
No. No, well, fair enough.
Yeah.
Did you pick up any, have you imparting any expertise or wisdom off the back of what you've done with that album to your people that you speak to about your pre-production? Is there anything that you were like, oh, I should have really been more better at pre-production here? Well, you haven't got time, I suppose, if it's just a month that you're doing a whole album, but
yeah,
I guess what I'm asking is what did you learn and how can you share that with other people who might be listening to this?
What I learned was that it's possible if you want to do it. I learned that plugins are invaluable. Like, you know, you want to make sure that every instrument is well EQ'd. You want to make sure that your vocals go in right in the first place. And that then you know, you're one of the things with vocals, I'm always like teaching people how far away from the microphone to stand and not touching their clothes, like rubbing their hands on their clothes or the wall of the studio while they're singing.
Oh, right. Yeah, there's that one. I had one recently where the guy, the guitarist was stamping his feet recording the guitars. We had to put a cushion under his foot to, you know, he could still stamp his feet, but we didn't have the noise because like you couldn't stop this foot stamping and stuff. But yeah, okay, so clean signal, good levels, etc. It's all under the category of gain staging and getting it right at the source.
Yes, absolutely. But then also not being afraid of just giving stuff a go. Like always press record. Don't just practice a take. You know, always press record because you never know, your practice take might be the best one.
Probably got unlimited hard drive space, and you're not going to lose anything if you keep recording. You've got everything's already there, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can
But
capture.
also, one of the more recent sessions that I had with one of the young people, I basically just said to her, look, you know, let's do another take. And she's like, oh no, I'm happy with that one. It's like, well, you've only done one take.
Wow.
How about we try it like this, do this again, because then what I can do is I can chop and change between the two takes and get the best phrase from each one, you know, like
comping.
And then she's like, okay. I was like, you know, if this is what you want to do, if you want to be going into studios, you want to be recording, then you've got to do several takes. That's just going to be what happens. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
exactly. I mean, it's quite remarkable if you do nail it
sometimes,
in one take, but sometimes you just, even your vocals might not even have warmed up, I guess, in some cases, if you are that kind of singer as well.
yeah, and you know, you might find that even though it felt like it was a good take, you do another take and you're like, oh, that one was actually so much better. I
Mm.
didn't realize that it could be that much better.
Yeah.
So there are some people who can do stuff in one take, the majority of the time, but
No, but I mean,
you know,
95% of the time, it's take 4, 5, 6 that are the ones you're choosing from, and then
yeah,
what you realise that 1 and 2 are often just the voice warming up, and there's tuning, it's the pitching's not quite there, or it's just the breathing's not quite in. It's just a natural thing, isn't it? But yeah, it's a good thing to encourage, isn't it? And then once you know you've got it, you can then do more and just have some fun. Like I
yeah,
often encourage a singer, because I'm not a singer, so I don't want to try and speak their language, but I'll always try and explain, like, let's try and hit some notes that you haven't hit yet, or like your top note has only been this so far, so let's try and, like, the last chorus, let's try and get you to go just for a couple of phrases, go like as high as you can above there, and then often they'll be like, oh, I really hadn't thought of that, and they'll push it there, and that'll just be a really amazing moment of the song because it's like a crescendo. But because they wrote the song and they didn't have the studio, didn't have that crescendo in their mind, they thought, no, I've recorded it as I've written it, so no, okay, we've got that, that's amazing, but now we've got a chance to do something else. And it's like, I love that. Talk about the pre-production thing. So, what would be if someone doesn't do their preparation or hasn't maybe done the pre-production considerations, what would that lead to?
well, it would lead to taking a lot longer in the studio and paying more for it.
Yeah. Yes.
um, on the side of the artist, you know, it's going to
Yeah.
cost you more if you're not prepared because it's
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
to take longer to get stuff done. So the more you've got prepared beforehand, the less stressful it'll be once you're in there because you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you know what you want and what you're doing, then you can just confidently get on with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't personally work on a per day thing, but I have a deep pre-production chat with people because then I know basically what the package is going to be. Once they've paid a set fee, that's it. There's no, like,
Yeah.
if it takes longer, it takes longer. It's fine. There's no, like, it's not like a clock ticking, like a studio where you book a
Okay.
studio and you're paying by the day or by the hour or whatever. It's so
So your
stressful.
your approach is more about the product than
I
the
charge
process.
I charge a fee for making a song. How
Right.
long it takes is not really relevant. It's factored in. Obviously, some songs are going to take way longer than others. So
Yeah.
I have different ways of considering that. That's why I put so much emphasis on pre-production. But I think
Yeah.
it's just so many, it opens so many different discussions, and it doesn't have to be, everything doesn't have to be planned out meticulously, because
Yeah.
it's nice to have some freedom in a studio to experiment and feel like you can go down these rabbit holes and experiment with whatever without feeling like, oh God, we haven't got time to experiment because it's costing us money. It's
Yeah.
more like, let's just create the environment for the best creativity to happen. And so if you have that pre-production, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm chipping in on your question here, but it's like one of the things that solves is time massively. Yes, if you're booking a studio and you're going in to record, you need to make sure that you're getting everything done in the time frame, because you're just going to have to put more money down at the end of the day, and that's not what you want. But if you are working less strict time pressured way, there's a bunch of other reasons why it's still really, really great. But yeah, time, massive part of that. Have you found people who have had questions about production that you weren't expecting, like, oh, I haven't really thought about that before? Like, any
Well,
surprises?
to be honest, not really, because it's ingrained in me to be a teacher.
Yeah,
So I
brilliant.
talk through what I'm doing all the time. Like literally, I'll just say, okay, right, at the moment, your vocal, when they've recorded a vocal, I'll say your vocal channel is raw at the moment. Let's have a listen to that. Okay, now what we're going to do is going to put compressor on it. And now
Hmm.
we're going to and now we're going to add a little bit of reverb. See how much that makes a difference. And
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. And if you listen to this part of your vocal, this is why I'm EQing it in this
love that.
way,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm automatically explain everything that I'm doing because I
It's
don't
great.
want anyone to be watching and thinking, "Oh, she's the expert and I'm the learner and
Yeah,
I
I've got
don't."
that exact same thing. Even
know.
though, yeah, I've been told to not do it at times. It's like, I don't need to know that. But no, it's brilliant. I mean, I love that. I think it's really, yeah, it's ingrained in you. I think it's ingrained in me too. I think it's also, it comes from a slight thing where I'm facing the computer and they're behind me, and I want to kind of know that I'm explaining what I'm doing. I'm not just mucking about.
Yeah, it's not, the thing is, when you're working in a studio, it's not a them and us thing. It's
Exactly.
it's a,
No.
it's a joint effort. And I think if an artist goes into a studio thinking that they are, you know, like they have no power in the hands of this all-knowing
Mm,
producer, and they're just, you know, need to be told
yeah.
what to do or whatever. It's not going to work like that.
No, that ownership of and that collaborative thing wasn't really present in a lot of the times I started recording when I was younger, and so I feel like it's super important. It's a collaboration and explaining what you're doing, but also understanding the reasons why. And
Also not being a diva about it
mm,
as well, because like your producer is there to actually help you sound great, and you can't just come in with loads of demands straight away.
well, you can.
You can, but you might not have them all met.
Brilliant. And so back to this pre-production stuff quickly. So I'm really bad at tangents.
Oh, so am I,
But
sorry.
no, it's good. It's all good. I'm glad I made some vague notes because otherwise it'd just be an hour of just blah blah blah. If you had maybe 3 top tips for artists or songwriters to cover with regards to preparing for studios.
Top tips. First would be to know what you want out of the session. What is it that you're going there for?
Mhm.
And having that as a clear goal.
Clear goals.
Yes, exactly. Having clear goals of what you want to get out of your
Would that
session.
be like what songs you're going to record, what the sound you want, what sort of things would you want
Um,
to know? What goals would you typically expect?
I would, well, firstly, yes, definitely what song you want to
Mhm.
record.
Yeah.
It's very, very important.
Yes.
And then what kind of sound you're going for with that song.
Yeah.
Um, and then another tip would be like being prepared for it to take longer than you anticipated.
Mhm.
So don't expect that it's just going to happen in a rush, because if you rush things, that doesn't work. So
Yeah.
be prepared to go slow and steady and get it right,
With that
rather
one.
than trying to rush it through.
I'm just writing these down. Yeah, that's good. I mean, also, yeah, that's partly, isn't it, patience and just having an understanding that this stuff needs to be done in a certain way to get the best, and then not fretting about that. Um,
Yeah.
Good one, that. And number 3,
Work together with your producer. Don't
love
assume
that.
of them enough.
Love it. It's a team. Teamwork makes the dream
Brain
work.
work.
No, I love that. I was going to say, yeah, that I almost just that's almost implied by the conversation I have with a new artist. Generally, they are a songwriter and they're bringing the
Yeah.
songs to me. It is always a collaboration, and it's like maybe that's not always expected. Maybe I deal with artists who have done other stuff with other studios and producers, and they sometimes have had bad experiences, and so they bring those bad experiences as an expectation to how it's going to be, or they want to make sure that it's not going to be like that again. And nearly every single time the bad experience comes from the fact that it wasn't a collaboration. They felt like they didn't have enough of control, and the producer
Right.
had a sound they wanted to inflict on their music, and that was it. And or they got the mixes back and they were like, oh, I hate these mixes and they can't change them, or it's going to cost them more money to change them, all that kind of stuff. It's all about communication, collaboration, and then that, making sure that everyone's on the same page, basically.
Yeah.
So I love that. Yeah, it's super important. Yeah, when you mentioned about goals, one of my things I was thinking about when I was writing about pre-production was setting your goals for what's going to happen with the music after it's been made. And it's an interesting thing to think about. It's like, what's going to happen to the music when you finish recording it? Because then that can sort of help frame the process and give decisions that are happening in the process a bit more clarity, and it also helps momentum. But that carries through. Like, is this going to be something you're releasing in a certain way? Like, are you doing it to try and get more fans? Are you doing it to try and have those kind of goals?
Yeah.
What's the release strategy? And then that can actually have an effect on what you're doing in the studio as well.
Yeah, totally. Because if you want something that's going to be like popular and appeal to the masses, then you've got to make it as in a certain style, haven't you?
Yeah,
So if they've got this idea that they want to do this popular thing, and then they record and it's like a dirgy, I don't know, like a folk song or something, that's
yeah,
not going to do pop.
yeah,
Like
exactly. Yeah.
you've got to like fit the genre of what you're aiming for.
Yeah, and one other thing I wanted to mention, which I always really love, is I love hearing songwriters' phone recordings and really basic raw recordings, like 3 a.m. in the bedroom kind of thing, and like having different levels of demo. So we've talked about demo making,
Yeah.
having the technology and having an interface and a MIDI keyboard and whatever else you need. And I think that's super important. But I think it's actually also really important just to hit record on your phone and play the song, whenever you're feeling it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I
It's
mean
when
that's like the main thing. Like that's what I do if I'm writing. If I'm sitting at the piano and I'm just playing,
yeah,
noodling around on something, and something comes out of it, then I just hit record on my phone. So I've
yeah,
got like so many recordings on my phone. But
amazing.
usually what I do is I take those and I develop those into a demo in the
Yeah,
studio, and then I build on that. And
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
so people
Same.
don't tend to hear my original voice notes.
No, but I mean the people being your audience, but maybe the producer would hear them more because I love hearing those because I there's an essence in that kind of early demo intimate recording that is just really valuable to hear. Keep those recordings and make them put a little Dropbox together with them in or a little place where they all are and like so when you go into a studio, part of your pre-production could be to listen to those. And I'm going to hear stuff in those recordings that maybe I can as a jumping off point in terms of the mood. I mean, I've actually have
Yeah.
even used audio from phone recordings in natural recordings as well. But
I
you know,
did on my last
I've done a lot of that.
album, when I did a song called Switch It Off,
Hmm.
and in the chorus I needed lots of people shouting Switch It Off at the same
Great.
time that I was singing it. And so I just put a Facebook plea out to all of my friends, just voice record themselves shouting Switch It Off and send it to me. And I just
Great.
got loads of these files and I've just layered them all up.
Love that.
So in the song, you listen to it and you just hear loads of people shouting, and I've panned them all around, so it
Yeah, yeah,
sounds like
yeah.
there's people all around you just shouting at you,
Oh, I'm
switch
gonna
it
have
up.
to. Yeah, I love that. And
Great
like
idea.
the phone recording I got for an artist called Karis Miller, who was a BIM student, and we've got another song we recorded that's not out yet. And the intro of that song, I took the sound of the ambient sound from her phone recording, and that's the intro for the song. So we don't
Nice.
use any of the actual guitar or vocal from that, but we just use that sort of like crusty kind of room sound thing. And
Nice.
it brings the listener into their bedroom, which is where the song was
Yeah.
written. So most people already do this, but don't lose those phone recordings. I think they're
Right.
pretty awesome. All right, what else we want to talk about? Let's have a look. Let's have a look. No, that's it. That's brilliant. I mean, I really appreciate you having this chat. Anything you want to add? Anything
Don't
you want to
think so.
promote? Where can people find
Um,
your stuff? Find out about what you're doing and all that kind of stuff?
well, the stuff we do with Blue Sky Music, everything's linked on our website, which is blueskymusic.fun. I just try and do as many things as possible to help people to get to a position where they can then do things for themselves.
But no,
But
I
there
mean,
is one more thing that I've just thought of,
go on,
that's really important for pre-production as
go on.
well. Because when I write a song,
Hmm.
I have to perform it like 4 or 5 times before it becomes the song. Like I might think when I've written it that it's finished, but then
Mm.
as I perform it, it develops, and then I add extra bits and the arrangement changes, and then it gets to a point where I feel like, yes, this is the song, this is
Yeah,
what I want.
yeah, yeah,
So if you've got a song that you want to record in a studio, perform it a few times before you actually go to the studio, because what I've got currently is like demos that I've recorded before where the song has actually morphed into something quite different now.
yeah,
So I'd
yeah,
have to re-record my demo to be able to even start.
yeah.
We've got to start all over again. So yeah, don't go into the studio and record something that you haven't tried out and like played a
Absolutely.
few times at least in front of people to see how it works.
Basically learn the song really, really well, but don't just learn
Yeah,
it in isolation. Yeah, learn it really well, but also, yeah, basically, if you have an opportunity to play it in front of people, if I'm working on a track my own, a mix or a production myself, I sneak it on at around my friends' houses or on the beach on a Bluetooth speaker or something, and even that you're hearing it through different ears. You're hearing it, you listen to it differently, and if you're actually the writer of the song, playing it, imagine performing it live, yeah, you get a whole another dimension, don't you? So very important.
yeah,
Yeah, brilliant. Oh, that's an extra bonus tip there on pre-production. Great. Well, we've covered loads of stuff, so that's great. Hopefully it's useful to people. I'm sure it will be to have a listen to this. And yeah, blueskymusic.fun.
yep,
And I'm going to try and make it along to one of the open mics if I can at some point.
that'd be awesome.
All right, nice. And thanks so much, Beth. It's really great to chat. And
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, have a nice rest of your day.